Here's what I want to talk to you about in this video. When your multi-fuel engine is doing what some guys refer to as making oil, where you check your dipstick before you go for a ride and you're full, and you get home from that ride and your oil level now is over the full mark, where it appears as though you made oil. What happens is one or all of these O-rings goes bad. These O-rings, we sell them on the website. That's mvpartstore.com. Put a link down in the description. But you get a 3 O-ring set. There's 2 larger O-rings, very close in size, but as you can see, one fits inside the other one. It's very important that you just don't go down to your local hardware store and grab any old O-rings. These are a special O-ring made to resist diesel and oil, because inside your pump, flowing through the head, you have fuel, and on the bottom side you have oil. By the way, when you take this cap off of here, there will be some oil in there. Don't worry about that. That is normal. That is supposed to be there. Then so these two larger O-rings. Sorry about the camera work, folks, but again, I got to get a mount made. Go on the hydraulic head. One of them rides right about in here, where the head makes contact with the pump. The other one rides lower. We'll try and focus. You see that gear in there? It rides down there, so that kind of separates the fuel portion from the oil portion. And again, there's more fuel down in here in the gear pump. This little O-ring, this one is the one that gives everybody trouble. All right, that one goes on here on your fuel shutoff. And as you can see, this does not return the way it should. And the reason for that is when you put this little bitty O-ring back in on the shaft that's under here, these 2 screws cannot, I repeat, do not tighten these 2 screws. When you put a brand new O-ring in there, it is now thicker, fatter than the O-ring that was in there originally, because the O-ring that was in there has been in there for time. It's been worn down, it's been compressed. So this is indeed the correct O-ring. All right, there's nothing wrong with the new O-ring. It is the right size. The problem is if you tighten these 2 screws down, your truck will either not run because this lever is stuck shutting off your fuel, and it is such a fine pinhole that shuts off your fuel, or it is stuck a little bit forward of where it belongs, which means now you've got wide open throttle. I learned this the hard way. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I replaced this O-ring in my truck years ago, and I tightened these screws down. Didn't bother running the safety wire at that point in time. It goes to prove why that safety wire is there. And when I started that truck, I mean, it just raced right up. No matter what I did with the throttle, it didn't change, it didn't do nothing. So I had to shut the truck down and kept thinking and thinking about what did I do wrong. And finally, when I got into here, back tracing my steps, I learned that's what the problem was. So when you put these screws in, finger tight, then half a turn with each one, start the truck, and just again, quarter turn at a time at that point in time on each one, bouncing back and forth until this arm does not move freely, or the truck starts to stall out or race up. Because when the truck is running and this is moving correctly, you will actually see this arm float back and forth. This is what holds your idle steady. All right, so as soon as you see that arm not moving freely while the truck is running and you're tightening these screws down, back off just a little bit to get that fine tune. Then these screws, we're going to try and rotate here and get in focus. There, you can see the 2 holes on top. That's where your safety wire goes through. It's very important that you run safety wire in there, because these screws are not going to be tight when you put that O-ring back in there. And therefore, they could walk out, and that's going to create more problems, because there's a lot of vibration in this motor. which would cause these screws to loosen up. So you have to use your safety wire. All right. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to pop this little clip off. Don't lose this clip. I'm going to take these two screws out, and I'm going to show you a little bit more about what's inside of there. So I had an opportunity to remove the two screws in this bar that hold everything in place. And having done so, you know, we could see in the last video how it would return. Now you see how it actually does return. That is because this one here, when it was put back on, was tightened too far. So now I'm going to try and do this with the camera. Oh boy, it's coming. Now there's a little clip on the back side of here that we have to be very, very careful not to lose, or this whole thing is no good. So here we go. Let's see what I can do here. Pulling this out, it's always so delicate. And there it is. This little clip right here has, oh, let me get it in focus, has everything to do with your fuel shutoff. If it does not line up, we're going to try and go down in here. Don't know how well this is going to work. There, you can kind of see that groove that's down in there. That groove is in a block, and that block shuts off a pinhole for your fuel shutoff. That's it. So if that doesn't line up right, you're not going to get your fuel shut off, or you're not going to get any fuel to your motor. So right here is the old O-ring, and it is hard as a rock and in there pretty good. May actually have to get a pick to get it out. It's hard to do when holding a phone as a camera, so sorry here. I'm gonna put the phone down, I think. Oh wait, I got it. It's coming now. Alright, so look at there. Look at how thin that O-ring has been pressed down to compared with the new one. Yeah, if we could even get it into focus. There we go. Such a huge difference. So as long as I'm in here, what the heck, we're gonna go ahead and replace that O-ring right away. It actually just doesn't get put in there even. It gets slid on the shaft first. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with the camera down, and then we're going to go ahead and put this here back together. So I just went ahead excuse me, and lubed this whole piece up with transmission fluid just to kind of help free it up a bit more. It was feeling a little rough, I thought. One thing I want to focus on here now is some of you guys talk about, oh, I run waste motor oil, but it's okay because I cut it 50-50 with gasoline, or whatever percentage with gasoline. I am not going to tell you how to run your vehicle or what to run in your vehicle, but I will tell you this. In my opinion, never, ever, for any reason, if at all possible, ever run gasoline in a diesel engine. For one, it is highly more volatile than diesel, so therefore the explosion that occurs within the combustion chamber, the diesel motor was not designed to handle that violent of an explosion. But point two, especially with these older motors, this head requires oil, diesel oil. Okay, diesel is still considered an oil to lube all of the moving parts within inside of it. This shaft requires oil and diesel to flow through it, through the fuel portions, to help lube it up. Gasoline, if you're an old, not really a tornado, folks, just that time of day where our sirens go off every day at this time, just to test them. Every day, gotta love it. Anyway, if you run gasoline, if you were ever around your grandfather, or in my case, my dad, we'll wait and let that go. The old school mechanics, they would, you know, before they'd come back in the house, their hands were just blacker than black from all the grease, the dirt, and whatever it might be out at the farm or out in the garage. And what did they do? They dumped gasoline on their hands. Why? Because that would take all of the oil away. It would clean their hands right off. Gasoline is a solvent. At its base chemical properties, it is a solvent more than anything. It is not a lube. So by running any form of gasoline inside of your diesel motor, especially these older LDT, LDS motors, you are going to take away any lubricity to the hydraulic head, any lubricity to any other moving parts in here, your gear pump, all of that. The lube is gone, and you will start to prematurely wear out parts. And then it's going to get expensive to replace them and to fix them. Yes, I understand it's a multi-fuel motor. It was made to run on whatever. It was not ever made to run on gasoline. Even kerosene is less of a solvent than actual gasoline. Please do not run gasoline in your motors. So that is what I wanted to focus on this part of the video. Thank you. Alright, so I lubed up my O-ring with some transmission fluid. Transmission fluid is a great all-around lube, especially for a diesel motor. Your motor will run on it heartily, and it acts as a detergent to get rid of other deposits. But in this case here, I happen to have it out because I was working on my daughter's power steering earlier, and it was here, it was available, so I used it to lube up our O-ring. Always lube your O-rings. Now, what we want to do is we want to set this down. We want to make sure that our mounting plate is in the correct position, and you'll see there's actual wear marks right here from where it was, so we know that we got the angle correct. Now this little clip, which is fully removable, but we are not removing it, we want to make sure that it is straight as possible, because that needs to slide into the slot. I will fully admit that I have put these things together and taken them apart 1,000 times over, just because I don't even trust myself that little slot has gone in there all the way. One easy way to tell is once it's in place, take a look. And you know what? We're not tight. We're not, oh, and I'm leaning over trying to look at it, so if you're not tight on there, then you are not in correctly. It's time to slowly remove this and reset the clip. So I'm going to work on that two-handed, and when I'm not looking through a video screen. So I'll come back to you and just took a little bit of doing, but I got it in there. This shaft you don't have to make sure is in all the way, because it does have enough play to it. But the main thing is make sure that this plate is seated tightly to here. Now, as we move that back and forth, you see now where earlier this wouldn't spring back, it is springing back now. So that O-ring that we put in is behind this plate against the main body of the pump. So now when we go to put this bar back on, like I said, we're going to go finger tight, and whoever buys this pump, I'm going to have to let them know that, hey, we put in a new O-ring, so please go through the correct steps. So finger tight. Alright, there we go. Now let's test this. Hey, it still rocks back and forth. Alright, so now I grab my screwdriver, and I'm going to do what most people would do, except I'm going to do it left-handed, which for me is in looking through a video screen. So wow, this is going to be enjoyable. But there, I'm going to tighten these down, and let's see what happens after I tighten them down, if I can even find the correct slot. I'm telling you, if you haven't made videos before, it can get enjoyable. Now look there, I can't even move. There, I got it to move, but it doesn't come back. So this, my friends, is why You do not tighten these beyond finger tight, and then get the truck running and test it and see, you know, does that bounce back? Doesn't it bounce back? Nope, didn't take much, did it? So we're still moving. I'm a little bit snug. I'm gonna go ahead, bring this back over, and what I want to do is I want to bring this down just, oh, now I got a mosquito climbing on my hand. Awesome. So you see I just moved them a little bit. It still moves, and they're in there snug. So I'm going to leave it at that. And like I said, whoever buys this pump, I'm going to inform them of what we did and what steps they need to take. So that is the correct procedure for replacing that small O-ring. Thanks for watching.